Today, I had the chance to sit down with Dr. Catherine O'Neill, the Chief Medical Officer at Our Lady of the Lake in Baton Rouge, as well as the LSU Assistant Professor of Medicine, specializing in infectious disease. Since the COVID-19 outbreak, she's been named onto the Governor's Louisiana COVID-19 Public Health Advisory Committee, as well as the Southeastern Conference Medical Task Force. Today, we were able to talk about her time in FFA as a member at Vidrine High School, as well as being a past state officer, and how her time in FFA helped her prepare for her future career. Hi, Dr. O'Neill. Thank you so much for being able to meet with us.
Hey, Sarah. Thank you for having me today. I'm so excited.
If we could just start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your line of work?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I am an assistant professor of clinical medicine in the specialty of infectious diseases. I work for the medical school in New Orleans, but I work in Baton Rouge because we have a branch campus here. And then this year I'm lucky enough to be the chief medical officer at Our Lady of the Lake Hospital. So it put me in a little bit of an administrative capacity at the same time as the pandemic was happening, which has been super interesting. I'm from, just to let you know a little bit about of my background, I'm from Vidrine, Louisiana, which is a super small town. It has a caution light. And my dad was a farmer. And sometime, I guess, in the late 80s, he stopped farming rice solely and started working in banking and then in hospital administration. But we kept our cows, so I was very active in my FFA chapter and also in 4-H when I was younger. I showed Brangus cattle for a long time.
Oh, awesome. So you say that you're an FFA member. Can you tell us a little bit about like your experiences in FFA and, you know, the opportunities you had through the organization?
Absolutely. I think FFA was probably one of the biggest defining things in my life. Besides my parents and my family, Mr. Thompson was my ag teacher growing up. My sister was just a couple of years older than me, so she was very involved in FFA too. And I saw for a small town kid, I saw the ability to travel, right, to get scholarship money for college, all things that were super important and things that Mr. Thompson pushed for us. You know, if you had the capability of going to college, this was going to be a pathway that would help you do that. And so I was involved in parliamentary law, which I was never as good as my sister because I'm not a great extemporaneous speaker. I did a lot of public speaking and prepared speeches. And we did nursery and landscape, which I have to tell you, I can't say that high school was super hard, but competing in FFA competitions is what taught me how to memorize things, which came in handy later in medical school when I was constantly memorizing terms. My kids are very frustrated that I know all of the plants in my own landscape and can tell them fun things about them. But that, I think for the most part, I would say that those things that I did in FFA were as in adult language, right? They are networking, public speaking, learning how to navigate on your own, driving to other places by yourself, flying to other places by yourself, figuring out directions and how to speak to other adults. And, Mr. Thompson didn't tell me those were the things he was trying to teach me, but that's what he did. He gave me a lot of confidence. And that I think has been the biggest gift that FFA has given me is just the ability to say, I can do this. This is not a big deal. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you touched on a little bit about how FFA prepared you for your future and your future career. How do you feel that FFA helps all students and members, with their future education? Like what qualities does FFA instill in students and members?
Right. It's such a door opener. So, when you talk about things that help you in life skills, it's not that I know how to put together a small engine, although that's actually very super helpful. And it's not that I can identify plants. It's all of the things that come with having to do those things, having to be dedicated towards a goal, having to work with a team towards that goal, right? These are things I'm still struggling with every day. I work with teams all day long in the hospital. I have to get people to engage with me in so many different things. And so learning those things through FFA is just a building block to the rest of your life. And I think that's really why joining an organization in high school is very important. Picking the right organization that offers a wide variety of opportunities is very important. And I think FFA does that so that it can take the person who's going to go into a career in engines. You know, my husband and I do a lot of our own fixing up at home, and it's good to be handy, right? It's also incredibly important to recognize that people who do those types of skills in life have to have mentors who do them, all the way to I'm going to go to med school and I'm not going to have anything to do with agriculture later in life, but my entire skill set was learned in FFA, right? Because it's still networking, it's still engagement, it's still communication skills. And so I think that FFA offers such a wide variety of life skills for people. It's really just a really well-honed organization that's found a niche for every type of high school kid. Yeah.
I think your story is a really cool testament that you can be so successful in FFA and go do something like go to medical school and become, you know, a physician. And even though you're not directly in like an agricultural field, like a farmer or an ag teacher, that you still have so many fundamental values that you learn through FFA. I think that's so inspiring. What are some pieces of advice that you have for us students and teachers that are returning back to school campuses throughout the state right now? What are some pieces of advice for us to stay safe?
I think the biggest piece of advice is to do the things that we know are helpful. You know, wear your mask, distance from others, even when you're getting together with people. We've been at work through this whole thing. So we never had this stay at home time in medicine. We've continued to work and continued to have to adjust our workspaces and our meetings and how we gather to be safe. And I can tell you it's doable, and you can still get what you want to get accomplished, whether it's personally or professionally in school, but wear your mask and distance to get that done. And think about every interaction you're about to have, because a lot of them are new. You're just getting back to school. What's it going to look like? How far away are we? Is there a better room for this to happen in? Just be aware. I think that if you're aware, you're going to be safe. Please recognize that not everybody is going to come out of this okay. I think in the college environment, so many will, that there's this feeling that it's not as important as it is for people who are older, and that's not the case. And we've seen some devastating young people have devastating infections. So, and the last thing, which I think is the piece that FFA primes you for, be a leader about it. You know, it's so hard in high school and in college to step up and say, this is what we need to do. But honestly, what I've seen in my experience now that I'm older is that people start to gravitate towards leaders at your age, and they continue to. So even though it's difficult, be a leader now. You'll set the tone. And I think on college campuses right now, they're looking for young adults to set the tone. So be that person for your college campus, lead the way.
Absolutely. We hear you and a lot of other medical experts talk about flattening the curve. And you mentioned that for, you know, people our age, you know, students, young adults, that we might not see it being as, you know, affecting towards us. But why, can you touch a little bit more on why is it so important that we, the young people, help in the efforts of flattening the curve and obeying regulations?
Right. So with every person who gets the infection, you then have the potential in a group to keep spreading that infection. And so while young adults may be okay with the virus, right, and it may be just like a cold and then it's done for you, the faster it spreads and the more people it touches in a given period of time, the more likely that bigger circles start to become infected from your group. You are not insular as a young adult. You go home to wash your clothes, you go home to visit family, you go to restaurants, you go to Smoothie King, you work in buildings and outside of campus. And those places, you will devastate them by having that attitude of, we're going to be okay. You touch so many other people's lives, even if it's a secondary and tertiary touching. So if you just keep the amount of infection down and flatten your own college curve, the rest of the community is a safer place to live. And I think that the community and communities where there are colleges throughout the United States are very nervous about their college campuses. They feel the pressure that young adults are exerting on them. So again, I think be aware that everybody else is hoping that you don't affect their health, and keep your curve flat for that. Recently, my yard got inundated with some sort of worm that's killing my grass. And I think that for all of us who have had this kind of thing happen, where one day you go out and there's a brown patch and the next thing you know, there's no more green grass in your yard, right? That is how small infections on college campuses that seem like no big deal become huge outbreaks that shut down a community, stop the economy from growing, and in fact send people home to have their semester done from their home bedroom, right? Is that what appears to be nothing and no big deal spreads like wildfire once it really catches on. And that we've seen this virus do that twice now in this community, and we are waiting for the third wave, and we do believe that it will begin in young adults. So we're just all praying and hoping that you guys can flatten the curve for us.
Thank you. A lot of students and young adults are probably going to be watching this interview. So for someone that might have been in contact with someone who was exposed to the virus or showing symptoms, what are immediate steps that you would advise them to take?
If you have been designated as a close contact of someone who has COVID-19, so you were within 6 feet of that person for more than 15 minutes, then you need to quarantine. What does quarantine look like for you? It sort of depends on where you live. If you live in a dorm, it's hard, and you need to let your dorm know so that they can come up with ways to help you quarantine. If you live in your own apartment or off campus in any way, you can quarantine at home. So I know that most of our young adults right now have most of their classes online anyway, right? And so that's been very helpful. So your life doesn't have to change a whole lot besides the fact that 14 days is long. You need a quarantine for 14 days. You need to stay in your bedroom for the most point. You need to try to use an individual bathroom and have everybody else use a different bathroom if that's possible. When you have time where you need to fix your food or go to get food, people either need to not be in the kitchen or you need help getting food to you. So really staying in one part of your house and keeping that part to yourself. You can do that and go to class online, and it won't be fun for 14 days, but you need to quarantine for 14 days. We have seen people develop symptoms all the way up to 14 days. So once you've had that close contact, you can actually take all 14 days to finally become sick, but you could become a shedder at any moment during that time and spread the disease. My husband had COVID-19 in April, and we didn't all move out of the house, but we sort of gave him his chair at the table and his chair in the living room, right? And his room and bathroom. And everybody said, Dad, we're not touching those spaces, and you don't touch ours. And that's how we got through it, and none of us got infected. So it's not that hard if you think about it, but you do have to quarantine away from everybody else.
Absolutely. Just to leave things off, like you said, a lot of people at schools and campuses and places of work right now are nervous about the future. Could you just give some words of encouragement, words of hope for the future if we're all like working together to flatten this curve and stay safe?
Sure. I read The Longest Day, which is a phenomenal book in the fall, right before this, about D-Day. And it's just, it is just a book about the 24 hours of D-Day. It ends when the 24 hours ends. And it reminded me so much at the time of reading it about how many people that we see daily in our lives have been touched by something that seemed so hard to them and were life-defining. And their lives were changed by it, but for the better. And we built a better community because of it. And I'm so glad I read that book before this pandemic, because this is so hard. It's so hard on our families. It's so hard on our jobs. It's just physically tiring and exhausting. But I know that things like this have happened in our past, and they have created immense change that is, I would say, 99% for the better. And so I'm looking forward to that change, right? And I would encourage everybody to look up some good podcasts. There's one on Harvard Business Review about forward thinking. I would say that many of my ag teachers and Dr. Robert Godke, who definitely got me my scholarship and got me interested in animal science, and that's why I was an ag major at LSU, he was a forward thinker. So start to look at forward thinking today, because if you start to concentrate on forward thinking now, number one, I think it helps mentally with getting through this. And number two, it's going to show you that use this as a jumping point for success. This shouldn't be bringing you down. You should be taking this in and saying, wow, our life is about to change and I could be part of that. There are so many good things that will come out of this pandemic. Let's seize them instead of living in the moment and saying, you know, this is totally not fun. This is not fun, right? I wear this mask all the time, but we are learning so much about how we can be healthier through avoidance of viruses. It's really amazing that we've accepted the fact that we get these viruses all year long and they bring us down. And so be a forward thinker, seize this moment. I can't believe that your generation has such an opportunity to be sort of on the forefront of all this. I'm kind of jealous. So good luck with it. And really, I think you should seize it if you can.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. O'Neill, for taking time out of your very, very busy schedule to meet with us. On behalf of Louisiana FFA and all of us here, we wish you the best in everything you do. We know that you are at a really challenging and pivotal time right now. So thank you so much for meeting with us.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I just want to let you know that I can't say enough about the Future Farmers of America. The FFA is a phenomenal organization, and anytime you want to talk, I would be glad to visit because I think you're the future. I'm very excited about it.
Thank you so much.
Y'all take care.